As a resident of Baltimore, in the wake of today's tragic collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, I wanted to first send prayers to the survivors and to those who are still missing. I also want to send energy to the rescue teams in hopes that their vigilance can save as many lives as possible. And when it comes to tragedy like this, we can become affected by the trauma in a lot of different ways. We are affected directly if we lose a loved one or we were a survivor of the trauma ourselves, and we're affected indirectly by an increase in anxiety and phobias due to media, due to witnessing, footage and things like that. So there's really two different ways that we can be affected. And a lot of people, just by virtue of the comments that I've been reading, have been affected in many different ways. You have people who are affected by looking into the conspiracy theory aspect. You have people who are or who were already fearful of driving over bridges themselves before this. So then something like this would help to reactivate those fears. So that's something that a lot of people are dealing with. It was actually one person that I saw had made a comment on across social media that was basically saying that she crossed that bridge shortly before it it had collapsed. So, you know, for those who may not know, the collapse happened around 1:30 this morning, and that bridge, especially at that time, there's a lot of truckers and maybe people getting off of work and things like that, but people utilizing it to carry goods across. And this woman actually was she crossed it, and then it collapsed shortly after she had already crossed the bridge. So I'm not sure how close she was, but I'm sure she was within earshot of the collapse, and I'm sure she heard it, maybe even saw part of it happening. And in the comments, she was saying that she was still shaking, like and I can only imagine, dealing with something like that. And then those outside of that type of scenario would be affected by, if either A, they know somebody in this area and they haven't been able to get in touch with them, so they assume that they may have been involved, injured, or maybe passed away because of it, because there are at least 7 people still missing, or if they actually had lost somebody. And so there's, especially in this era now where we have so many ways to get information so quickly, footage and audio, and just varying forms of information, like it can it's important to be informed, but it also can lead to people having different reactions, and that those reactions can be long lasting. So today I just want to drop just 5 key strategies to use no matter which way you may have been affected. That these strategies should be helpful, in just trying to lessen and decrease the trauma response, and to put yourself in a much healthier position, because there are 2 terms that come out of this with regards to phobias. There's the fear of bridges, gephyriophobia, and the fear of heights, which is acrophobia. So usually these work in concert with one another, because bridges are at you know record heights, and the fear of crossing a bridge usually entails it collapsing, so dying from the fall or dying from drowning in the waters below. So that's something that you know people need to focus on and work through, because avoiding bridges forever is not practical. But there are some ways to help yourself when you do need help. So the first strategy I'm gonna get into is breathing. You may know, if you have any knowledge of just healing anxiety or calming the stress response or whatever. A lot of uh, people will tell you you have to control your breathing, and it's very important because you want to communicate to the brain and the nervous system that you are not in danger, but that you can relax in a calm state. If you're going to be traveling or taking bridges, that may be a trigger, may have been a trigger before, but it may also be a trigger now, even more so. So one technique to utilize when it comes to breathing is the 4-7-8 technique, which is basically breathing in for 4 seconds, holding it for seven, and then breathing out for eight. And the reason of the exhale being longer than the inhale is important for the calming effect. You definitely always want the exhale to exceed the inhale. So it's 4-7-8, real simple. Breathe in for 4, hold it for 7, and exhale for 8. And this will help you to regain control over your nervous system, because again, when it comes to anxiety, phobias, different things like that, it's thought, but it's also the biological reaction as well. So you want to make sure that as you make sure you understand that as you calm either one, the other one will calm itself. It's a mind body connection. So if you start doing exercises to calm your body, your mind will start to calm as well, and vice versa. So second is focus. You definitely want to choose a focal point. This is for people who may have certain fears and anxieties about driving over bridges. It may not be to the effect where you feel too scared to even ever get on a bridge anymore. You may still go on bridges, but you may have certain reactions and it may be difficult for you. So this is if you're at that stage, focus. So here's a couple examples of how you can choose focus to help you to avoid a panic attack or to be over anxious on a bridge. Um, let's say you're driving and there's a car in front of you. One thing that you can do is to view or look at the license plate in front of you, and either A, just focus strictly on that throughout the ride, or if the thoughts are too overwhelming, B, you can start to utilize the letters and numbers or whatever's on the license plate and create an acronym out of it, and just create different acronyms over and over again, until you get across the bridge. Now, it shouldn't take too long to cross a bridge, but if you're talking about the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, you're probably going to be there for a while. So you know and especially with that bridge, there's no pull off points, so you can't necessarily pull over if you are having a panic attack. So you definitely want to get some practice, do some trial runs, and try to get yourself into repetition of being able to shift your focus while you're traveling on a bridge, so you're not focusing on the possibility of it collapsing, the possibility of it being destroyed, or you falling off of it, or you blanking out, having some sort of panic attack, and then swerving off out of control. You don't want to be thinking about these things. So you want to have your brain occupied during the time frame that you're on the bridge. And so something like this, creating a game out of it, an activity around it, will be helpful for you to maintain a healthy focus during that time. Number three is to complete the story. So if you think of soldiers who are, coming back from deployment, a lot of times they'll have, flashbacks. If they have PTSD, they'll have flashbacks, nightmares, different sounds, all these different physiological reactions to things that aren't actually happening at present. It's because the fear parts of the brain, the hippocampus, amygdala, the emotional and the visual parts are not connected with the language parts of the brain. There's a disconnect, and it's out of calibration. So what that means is, in layman's terms, your brain doesn't know that the trauma is over. So it continues to give you these flashes or reactions as if it's mobilizing you to escape something, but you might be at home with your wife and kids, but it's your body's reacting as if you're still in a war zone. It's because the language centers aren't connected with the actual fear centers as far as their response. And so there's something called narrative therapy, which basically, helps you to finish the narrative, which helps you to put language to the trauma. And it involves you being able to write out, and it's something you can try yourself, or if you do need to connect with a therapist, you can do so with their support. But writing out the events, the chain of events, but having the happy, safe ending that is actually occurring. So, for example, I survived the bridge collapse. I made it safely, to my home and to my family, and I am not. I did not suffer any injuries, was nor am I in any imminent danger currently. You know, something like that to end it off helps to reconnect your brain to understand that we don't need to keep firing off these reactions because he or she is safe, right? So completing the story, completing the narrative is important. This isn't only regarding situations like this. You may have had past traumas that you still have certain effects from, and so you definitely want to make sure that you are completing the narrative, and using that as your blueprint moving forward. So once you create this narrative and it's written out, it's fleshed out, it ends in safety, right? It ends in survival, it ends in optimism of the future. And it's something that you can read, you can post up somewhere, and you can keep reminding yourself, and work it into your brain, actually, so that the brain really, it's overprotective, but it acts, it tries to save you in whatever ways that it feels like it can, and it utilizes fear to do so in a lot of ways. And so you want to make sure that you are communicating safety. That's really what these strategies are. It's communicating safety, and it's not allowing you to experience a tragedy and then carry the tragedy for the rest of your life, and constantly re-experience the tragedy on a consistent basis. So that, because that's not a quality of life. No matter what happened to you, it's not a quality of life. It's not something you can sustain. And so, these different strategies are to create a default setting of calm for you, and to make sure that you can live a healthy life, and to not be restricted by fear, for the most part. So, for number 4, when it comes to bridges and things like that, there are transportation services for people who are actually in high level fear when it comes to bridges. There are some people out there who aren't equipped yet to be able to travel over long bridges. They have too many, panic attacks, or they, can lose consciousness. Their fear is too strong, and they're not able to do so on their own. So they actually, I looked it up too. They actually have certain transportation services depending on where you are in the nation or geographically that can, where they have certain drivers that will transport you over bridges. And so, looking into that, if it's to that level, you know, looking into that will be helpful until you're able to work through and get to a point where you have the ability and the resources, tools, mental health services, etc., that can get you to a point where you can handle it on your own. Last but not least, mental health support. So when it comes to phobias, anxieties, etc., gradual exposure, all these different things, CBT and exposure therapy are incredibly important because they will help you to challenge the abundance of thoughts that eventually cause the phobia and the anxiety. And they will also so CBT works on the thoughts and the behavior aspect, and then exposure therapy works on gradually introducing you to that fear and rating how you feel, rating your anxiety, and then trying it over and over again until the anxiety lessens, teaching you how to sit in those feelings and understand that you can come out of them. They're not, it's the alarms uh, are not true. It's not a current danger situation. And so, seeking out those services, if you're to that level, seeking out those services would be, definitely something you want to take advantage of. um and again, with myself included, I'm a trauma recovery coach. I do have, different strategies, and I also, work with people one-on-one. So definitely feel free to reach out, to me via the link on my page if you want to set up just a strategy session. If some of these fears are strong and you may want to figure out how to work through them, or if your trauma is not specific to a um, an outside tragedy, maybe it's something based in relationships, based on childhood trauma, based on other factors. If you do need any help or any assistance, or looking for any strategies, definitely make contact with me, and we can work through it, because this situation this situation here is going to affect a lot of people, especially drivers, because like I said earlier, I was looking at a lot of different comments, and there were already a lot of people who were had a fear of driving over bridges and things like that. And now they're in anticipation that it's going to be harder for them to do so, because we haven't really seen anything like this outside of just action movies. You know what I mean? Like a whole bridge collapse. I mean, 9/11 is really the closest thing as far as a collapse is concerned. But as far as a bridge, I haven't seen it outside of Hollywood, like an actual movie or anything like that. So um I definitely want to ensure that we, however this affects you, there are strategies, there are tools for you to be able to circumvent. So let me know if anybody, before I go, if anybody wants to chime in on the situation. Maybe you have some questions, maybe you have
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
some specific fears that you're trying to work through, or certain reactions that you may be having right now. I know it's still an active situation. There's the crews and the Coast Guard and everybody is still looking for uh, people and things like that. But I wanted to you know definitely jump in and give people some real time, just quick strategies to take home and utilize, because it's necessary. We need tools. We need them fast because life is moving fast. There's like 10 different scenarios happening at once. Just nationally right now, there's a lot of feelings happening, and I just want our people uh, to have a sense of peace, to have a sense of safety, but also to have a sense of knowledge on how to recalibrate themselves, how to ground themselves, how to remain in the best space possible, in the best mental and emotional space and spiritual space possible. So let me get cute and classy. It's on you.
Hey, happy Tuesday. Um,
Likewise.
I'm glad that I finally got to jump in really quick. At work and normally in between time, but I wanted to say those are good points that you bring up. A lot of times, folks will not come forward and say anything because of the fear of what others may think, and a lot of times they put their pride in their ego forefront instead of their mental health or their health because they don't want no one to see them as weak. And we need to get out of that because we've been conditioned so long into thinking that whatever you're going through, you pray about it and you handle it yourself. And that's just not it. Yes, you can pray about it because, honey, prayers work miracles, okay? Well, let's just say God works miracles. But at the same time, yes, you need to feed your spiritual, but honey, you need to feed that here and now, what's going on right now, and that mental. And both of those things work. And a lot of times folks will not move forward because, like I said, they want to get in their little closet and they want to hold on to all their pain, hurt, and anger and all that good stuff and what they're going through and what they're experiencing. And it takes just the right person to come along and maybe say something that triggers them and then they snap. So instead of waiting to get to that point, we need to start talking to folks. And a lot of times, even talking with your person that's close to you, that if y'all fall out and it's for a minute or whatever, they're still not going to take what you told them in confidence and run and tell somebody. If you don't want to talk to your therapist, but I recommend finding somebody or talking to Marcus or somebody that you're content with because everybody is not for everybody, and that's the problem. Folks think if they hit one or two people, I tried it, I'm not going to do this no more because, I struck out. But the problem is sometimes it takes more than 2 to 3 people. I had to go through about 7 or 8 people before I found my one. So, if you have those pointers to Marcus, if you can throw them out, I don't know if they're on your page, but if you put them on your page, tweet them out, I'll make sure because, I'm always talking to folks on the back end that are going through a lot. So, a lot of times, if you see me posting, I'm not only posting for my benefit because that's what I'm working on the spiritual side, and I'm working through a lot of childhood traumas. These are traumas that have been passed down. And this is how I related to when dealing with folks because, hello, these things are not your fault. So forgiveness is key in regards to whatever you're going through and whatever you're dealing with. You got to forgive yourself first for all the hurts that you've been put through and the hurts that you've been dealt. And a lot of people don't know how to do that because I'm just saying, speaking from experience, I didn't know how to do that. I didn't even know where to start. But, you know, I started writing, putting my stuff down on paper this week. Well, I might as well say yesterday, I'll put it this way. I literally had to write a letter to myself about all my hurt that I experienced from childhood all the way up to adulthood and how to deal with that stuff. So, we take it one day at a time and just know that the way it came on is the way it's going to take us to heal. So if you share those things with me, I will make sure I throw them on the back end and get them to folks that need it.
Absolutely. No, I'll definitely be checking in with you. And you made some excellent points too. I wanted to first say, great job on writing as an expression. You mentioned having, certain traumas yourself and things like that. And a lot of times people use the term releasing trauma. And I think part of that is getting it out in a safe and healthy outlet, which, when it comes to writing, it's definitely one of the most powerful, because when you write it out, you can see it in real time, and you can make edits. You can have control over where you take it next, where you want to be, who you want to be, what areas or specific parts of it you want to improve, and how it has shown up in your behavior, and where you want to direct it, right? It's movies and things like that. They first start as a script, so you have to, and the ending becomes a part of what is written. And so when it's in your head, though, you don't have as much control over where it goes. It bounces off of other fears, insecurities, anxieties. Evidence is then brought up to support the negative thinking, and everything swirls around. It's like just like an aquarium. You just see this various different fish swimming around, and of different types, and there's no real uniformity. It's more difficult in that particular sense. So I definitely want to say great job there. And before I finish up, I'll let you jump back in. Go ahead.
I was going to say that is such a good point that you brought up. When I noticed that back in 2014, I was going through it. I got really pissed off. And normally when we get mad, we will have one point that piggybacks off another point, that piggybacks off another point. So you have these um, emotions start swirling around you like crazy. See, I didn't understand then. And at that moment, I had picked up The Secret. I read The Secret, and The Secret, as I was reading that chapter, I was like, everything that that book talked about, I had just went through in a matter of 30 minutes. Hey, brother. But all I'm saying is writing down your points as you start writing. Like I said, I started journaling and writing down my letter. A lot of stuff I did not remember. But as soon as I started to do that, I actually had stuff start coming back to me that I totally forgot about. I locked away. I put it back in my subconscious and I forgot about them. So journaling helps. A lot of times we don't want to face those things, but if you hold on to them, you're not going to heal yourself. You have to be able to allow them to let go, talk about it, speak about it. Because I don't know if you're faith based in here or not, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you do not speak about what you're going through, God cannot take that away from you. And you'll be sitting around, going around like the children of Israel, going around in a circle, talking about why is this continuing to happen to me? Because you don't want to let that go. You got to let it go so you can go ahead and move forward. And whatever's supposed to be coming for you, it needs to come to you because your footsteps are already laid. Just going to throw that out there. Okay.
Right. No, exactly. And what you don't address operates in the background and controls your destiny. So it's no, we're not at a point where we can simply just allow things to just be in the background, or to avoid certain things, or feel like we can suppress it or sweep it under the rug. The reason is, especially if it's subconscious programming or even unconscious, at certain points it's creating your destiny, and it's living it's basically the puppet master behind you. So whatever triggers it into action, it's going to do that the same way. And I see it in every area of life, because my approach has multiple categories, even beyond just mental health, because I believe trauma likes to hide in all of these different areas. And you see it in everything from not only just mental health as far as thoughts and emotions, but you see it in relationship cycles. How you choose partners will be completely repetitive, until you address what's sending you in that direction. And we live in a culture now where it's the simple option is to just blame the other gender, for all of the issues, or you know blame your ex for all of these situations. And but the reality is, the exes can't change the trajectory. You have to change the trajectory of, how you're going to live, how you vibrate, and what you're able to address and therefore heal. But I also understand the fear when it comes to revealing certain things, because we also live in a culture now where exposure is prominent. People take revenge on other people by exposing private or confidential information, and there's a fear that, well, if I have a falling out, or this person doesn't like something that I do, that all of my information is going to end up somewhere or on the internet permanently, and in perpetuity. So I have to, then that rejustifies the thought that, okay, well, I'm just going to hide it, and I'm just going to further suppress it, because every time I come out there, that could be the end result. But it also ties into this situation where you wouldn't justify nobody driving over a bridge for the rest of their lives based on this situation, nor would you justify somebody saying, well, because there are a few people who would dox you, meaning that now you can never tell anybody or never look out, or request support ever in life, because there are people that exist who would do you dirty and expose you. So that's something that I want to get through as well. My black is Asiatic. Did you want to jump in?
Yes, I did. How are you? I appreciate this conversation.
I'm
And
doing well.
I wanted to, when you were talking about, hiding, how you feel, it's it's I mean, what we need to understand is that people can't hide what they're, actually thinking, because what they do is how they think, you know, on a regular basis. What they do on a regular basis, regardless of what they say, they do how they feel on the inside. They do it with their hands and feet. You know what I'm saying? They can say
Right.
what they want to say, So it's not really that they're hiding. It's lying. Is lying, because deep down inside that if you wouldn't want no one to do it to you, so why do it to other people?
Right. Excellent point. And I think that that's that's for certain people, that's the the unavoidable part, because again, if you may believe that you are hiding your insecurities, or your envy of someone, or your jealousy of someone's success. You may think that because you're not saying it verbally, because basically you feel like, because there's no confession, that you can't be convicted. And I beg to differ as well, because the evidence is there. Just like you said, you're showing by virtue of your actions, how you move, how you respond to certain things that I may do. So I don't need the confession to convict at this point, and that's something that I live by as well. It's like, I don't need you because you'll never tell me. People who carry this type of energy, they're not going to come out and say, I don't like you because what you represent intimidates me and reminds me of my failures, even though you're not doing it on purpose. You're almost never going to hear something like that. And so, but what you will get is people talking bad behind your back. What you will get is certain sabotage tactics. What you will get is people who like to show up when you're going through things, because it makes them feel better, but not showing up during your victory times, your success times, um, your celebrations, your accolades. They're nowhere to be found, right? People, what they will do is monopolize conversations when you bring things positive to them that you have going on, or positive shifts in your life. They will either take over the conversation and shift it to themselves, or they'll give you a very minimal passive aggressive response to make you start to condition you to feel bad about bringing them good news about yourself. So, with all that, you think I don't have enough evidence to figure out who I'm dealing with? Nah. Like, so, you're absolutely right. Like these things, it's an unavoidable thing. Like, when it comes to, to Q and Classic, to your point too, as far as like, um earlier, feeling like it's a weakness to admit to certain flaws or certain mistakes in life and everything like that, and feeling like it's strong to not have accountability. And I think, that actually is the weakness. I think that, not to say that you should tell everybody your business, but what I am saying is, if you can't personally acknowledge that you may have misfired, or made different moves, you will never be able to improve in those areas, because if you refuse to acknowledge it, you can't improve it because you don't think it exists. So if you are creating this image of being infallible and always perfect and always justifying your actions, you will remain stagnant, and your fate is already sealed, because you'll get whatever comes with jealousy, whatever comes with these insecurity. You're always going to get what comes with that. And those are not going to be the main themes of my life. I know that for a fact. I can't speak for anybody else, but those are not going to be the main themes of my life moving forward. And so part of getting to the other side, is to be able to first say, in the quietness and darkness of your own room, to be able to say, yeah, I probably shouldn't have did that. Or, yeah, I saw those red flags and went in anyway. Why did I do that? That starts the process. Well, why did you do that? Because this happened and this happened. Okay, well, this affects this. I don't like this. So I have to start moving in a self-improvement, personal development, healing journey type of direction. And that will ultimately lead you to, pages like mine, pages like other people. Like, it'll lead you to the information, the strategies, the tools, and you will be able to take yourself out of where you're functioning at that particular point. So, the strength is in being able to acknowledge that, yeah, this is affecting me. You know what I'm saying? And then you can move forward, from there, because it's very off-putting. Not to keep going back to the dating aspect, but that's an area of that I'm passionate about as well, just as far as relationships go. And for me, it's very off-putting to encounter certain people along the journey who can't be accountable, uh, who lack the accountability factor, or the awareness factor, or who aren't people who are predicated on personal growth. You know what I'm saying? And those are three. Whenever I'm in a space talking about relationships, I always give people those three categories. When people are asking what should they look for in partners, you know, the standards vary. There's obvious standards, and then there's physical standards and all of that type of stuff. But I say the main three you don't want to ignore, or you want to make sure are part of the deal, are self-awareness, accountability, and a commitment to growth. Those are three things that I know I'm not gonna live without when it comes to a potential partner. But I think that that's something that you always want to look for in friends and romantic partners, because it just saves you so much time, and it also helps you to have a certain level of safety no matter what happens. So if something does happen, you do know, or their behaviors affect you or trigger you, you do know that this person is self-aware. So either they're going to pick it up first, or you're going to pick it up second. They can be accountable. So once they know it exists, they'll be able to acknowledge that it exists and how it affected you, and they'll be already working on improving that behavior. Um, and especially in a relationship, because if when you and I'm talking when you meet them, I'm not talking about like you trying to conjure up these behaviors or thought processes within them afterwards. Like, not, this isn't the Build-A-Bear project. This is something that these should be standard. These shouldn't be extra features that you try to look for after you purchase it. Like, this should be standard. And the commitment to growth part, and also ensures that when you meet them, they've already been working on things for themselves to improve themselves. So when you create a unit, you create a coupleship out of the two of you. You can also ensure that they will be interested in growing the relationship as well. So if they're already committed to personal growth, it's going to transfer over into the relationship growth as well, being a priority. And that's something that you want as well. You know what I'm saying? So, because they're already used to seeking improvement. And if they match with you, they're going to want to not only help you improve, but to make sure that the relationship stays alive, stays spontaneous, stays bonded. And that's helpful for the long term. You know what I mean? So, but again, all excellent points. All excellent points. And just as a people, we just need to recognize that number one, we don't have to live in a resilience based existence where we get used to the trauma reaction and response, and we live in these patterns of trauma and then calming down and then re-traumatizing and then kind of living in like this vibration of expecting things to go wrong and living in the emotions that come with that. We can live in a much higher vibration. I mean, we deserve to live in a much higher vibration, and it's actually possible to do so. No matter what is happening, there's always specific lessons, information, as well as advantages that we can not only make ourselves better, but help make the world better, make our people better, as well. So thank you guys for coming through. I appreciate the energy. um and feel free to reach out again if you need any help in this area, if you are looking for some assistance with just dealing with trauma, working through trauma, or you may know somebody. Definitely be sure to click the link, set up an appointment so we can just do a quick strategy session, just see what you need, what you're looking for, and put it in motion. Because I'm about speed when it comes to, if you recognize something that isn't right or that you've been looking to change for a while, you definitely want to utilize the resources. Check in. Let's figure this thing out, and I can customize something for you, just to help you in moving forward. So thank you guys again. Stay tuned in, and I'll see you guys soon.